Hello, this is Babette Donaldson, the founder of the International Tea Sippers Society. With this presentation today, I'm introducing our Month of Tea celebration for January 2018, Sip for Peace. It's an exciting program for me. I hope it will be for you, and I also hope that you choose to join us. When I say we, the partner in this event is Lou Berkeley, who brings his knowledge of and his passion for tea, along with a very broad skill set, to what we're planning to do. And you can get to know him a little bit better through a podcast interview we did last year. Lou and I are also very grateful for the support of the G.S. Haley Company, Australian Tea Masters, the Tea House, and International Tea Importers. Three of the questions that we're going to approach today and discuss today are why, what, and how. The why is probably pretty obvious. Nearly everyone around the world is being touched by radical and frightening changes in climate, volatile political unrest, and a dramatically changing world. We have a new kind of intimacy that's possible because of the internet and the way in which we can share media. But somehow this greater awareness of what's going on in the world can also cause more fear. It can make us feel helpless, sometimes as if there's nothing we can do. But as one of the baby boomers who was an activist in the 1960s and early 70s, I draw on some of the wisdom, the visionaries from that time, like John Lennon and his lyrics, "Imagine all the people living life in peace." So what we're going to do with Sip for Peace is imagine what the world would be like. How would our lives be changed without war? We also can consider the words of the Dalai Lama. We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. There's a peacefulness in enjoying a private cup of tea or sharing one. And Martin Luther King said, "If we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our religion. And this means we must develop a world perspective." Can we develop that world perspective through a better understanding of tea? Paulo Coelho de Souza also said, "The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. By your example and your action." And can drinking tea become activism, a way in which we can express our thoughts and our feelings about this vision of the world without war and let it ripple out beyond ourselves, beyond our communities, perhaps even out towards to people around the world through this wonderful virtual connection that we now have. And one of the final quotes that I would put forth as an example of perhaps how I'm starting to make that connection between world peace and sipping tea is one I would share from Mahatma Gandhi. "I have watched the cultures of all the lands blow around my house, and other winds have blown the seeds of peace, for travel is the language of peace." Many of the tea people I know say we refer to what we do when we drink teas from around the world as traveling the world in our teacup. And I believe that we also share the beginnings of a language for peace. Lastly, with Mother Teresa, we have her advice when she was asked, "What can you do to promote world peace?" She said, "Go home and love your family." And in loving your family, one of the things about sharing that tea is it's multi-generational. Every age can enjoy tea. Every culture can enjoy tea. And with our families, we have that opportunity to go home and turn off the electronics and all the other forms of entertainment and focus one-on-one with each other. We can do this with our friends. We can do it in the community. And I believe that's what we're calling Sip for Peace. Mother Teresa is also quoted as having said, "Don't wait for leaders. Do it alone, person to person." And one thing about tea, our idea of Sip for Peace is having a way in which we can create this vision of world peace with a practice that we can do by ourselves, but also that we can share person to person. So, what is the difference that a cup of tea might make? What's the big deal about just a simple cup of tea? Well, my tea friends and I frequently share great quotes, lofty ideas from some of our tea philosophers and even modern day tea writers, and I'll share a few of those with you now to perhaps illustrate my point. From Kakuzo Okakura, The Book of Tea, he writes, "Teaism is a cult founded on the adoration of the beautiful among the sordid facts of everyday existence. Tea masters have given emphasis to our natural love of simplicity and have shown us the beauty of humility. In fact, through their teachings, tea has entered the life of people." More recent writer D.T. Suzuki in Zen and the Japanese Culture writes, "Who would then deny that when I am sipping tea in my tea room, I am swallowing the whole universe with it, and that this very moment of lifting the bowl to my lips is eternity itself, transcending time and space?" And the advice of one of our contemporary monks, Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book The Miracle of Mindfulness, he suggests, "Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the world revolves." So let's take this idea of tea and world peace to perhaps full circle to the song that was written by Jill Jackson Miller and Cy Miller. It's a very popular one. There are lots of recordings of it by famous artists and groups on YouTube, so you can hear the entire song. But the verse that really, to me, captures the idea that we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to accomplish with Sip for Peace is, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be." So isn't this what Mother Teresa and the Mahatma Gandhi and Albert Einstein and Martin Luther King and all of these great visionaries been saying? Let's start at the core of ourselves, where we are in control, where we don't have to wait for leaders to make decisions for us, and make connections throughout the many peoples of this world, intimate, wonderful, fearless connections, to create a vision of the world without this separation that we're suffering today. There's something about gatherings of tea people around the world that also speak to the big question, why tea? When people step through that threshold of tea becoming more than just a beverage, of becoming a lifestyle, then we feel changed. It's a little difficult to describe. But I tend to feel it in different events like our tea festivals here in the United States, in classes and events that are scheduled to attract hundreds and even thousands of tea lovers to gather together. We can't create the energy that you feel at a physical tea celebration, a physical tea event like the festivals, but we can share some of those elements in Sip for Peace. There are actually tea festivals and expos and exhibitions in many different countries around the world, and they're really a lot of fun, other than to sort of contradict the idea that tea people are stodgy. This past August, I had the privilege of visiting the Korean World Tea Expo that's run by the Myungwon Cultural Foundation and the chairwoman, Kim Ui-jung. And we were able to speak about the importance of preserving all of culture by preserving tea culture, and how tea training in the ceremonial aspects of tea, of which there are many in Korea, are important to the children now and are actually becoming part of education. I was also able to meet the farmers. This is a woman and her husband who actually won one of the top prizes for their green tea. These are some of the other farmers that were exhibiting at the World Tea Expo in Seoul this last August, and most of these are from the Bosang area. This is one of the areas that we're going to be featuring in the month of tea, Sip for Peace. And of course, being in Seoul, this this last few months, just a couple of months ago, as a lot of the tension started rising between the United States and Seoul, was such an emotional experience, really affirming the need for SIP for peace, and in my mind, the connection between world peace and getting to know each other around the globe through tea. So if I've hopefully I've started to kind of make that point, and now we can move on to the question of how are we going to do this, and how do you participate? As a subscribing tea sipper, you'll receive 31 emails for each day of January, and in those there will be a focus on a specific tea region. For some countries, there will be multiple regions. Some of the countries like China, India, and Japan we could do one focus for and still not cover everything that is unique about that country in terms of tea. But in addition to each specific region that we choose, we'll pair that with a meditation written by one of the authors of tea books that also some of the tea poets and some of the perhaps even the ancient poets that will share with you to give you something to think about as you sip your cup of tea, and start creating that vision in your mind of what peace is going to do to change your world. Now, participation in SIP for Peace and all these 31 emails is part of our forever free version with the International Tea Sippers membership. It just doesn't feel right to ever charge for a program that is about something as important as this. There are other levels of membership, but the SIP for Peace content that we will be creating will always be available, and it will always be free. And so all that you need to do to participate is just register as a tea sipper. And you can do that on the very first page of our website at teasipperssociety.com. And this is a mock-up of the daily email that you'll get. It's really very simple. You get a short excerpt of the meditation and a little teaser bit about the country of origin. And then you have the option whether you want to open the email, and then of course whether you want to link back to the website. So the daily practice are these emails, and taking aside a few moments by yourself, alone, or with someone else in a small group, or your family and friends, and just let your imagination drift and question how the world will change. We're going to suggest that you journal your experience and be able to have something to look back on. One of the other aspects of Sip for Peace is that we're creating a global tea blend from the teas that are donated from the 31 different regions. And we're calling this the flavor of peace, in the way that these are all green teas will blend to make actually a very gentle, lovely flavor that I think you'll enjoy. There's sort of a limit on that quantity. We're offering it to members first, of course. But then we also encourage you to try the teas from the different regions. Some of them might be difficult to find in your local market, so we'll be giving you some resources, online resources, and some of the companies that specialize in teas from these more remote regions. This is a partial list of what we're going to be serving in our global tea blend. We'll have different teas from different areas of Africa, Australia, China, Indonesia, Colombia, India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Turkey, from the United States, and also Vietnam. This is a close-up photograph of one of the blends that we tried in our experimentation to create a blend of 31 different green teas from around the world. And I think what you'll notice first is the variation in all the different colors of green and the different shapes of the leaf. These are not the characteristics that would win a prize for tea, Usually it's consistency of leaf that is considered the most valuable asset for a tea. But for ours, it's an iconic tea, symbolic of how we can combine our visions for world peace and create this flavor of peace. Now, for live events, what we've been talking about so far has been virtual, online, and emails, and things that you do in the more or less the privacy of your own home. But if you want to create gatherings, local events, you can perhaps just have a sip-in with one friend. You can invite several friends and family members. You might want to share this with some of your small private groups, like book groups. Tea businesses might want to host sip-in events. Schools, especially students that are studying different world cultures. Libraries might use this as a theme for an event to feature the books in their collection on world peace, both for children and for adults. I've heard from some people that are event coordinators in assisted living communities that this is something they would like to do with their residents, to have sip-ins. Also, local health food stores that carry bulk teas have talked to me about organizing sip-ins. So we'll be offering some support for these events. We have some materials that are downloadable and you can print them on your own printer. And we will also be featuring some of these on Facebook. One of my goals is to have this cover as many people in as many different regions as possible. Certainly, I'd like to have something in every state in the United States, my stomping ground, but what about every country? What about almost every continent? Um, this is our first year. Part of this is building slowly and gradually so that we can create a really wonderful and successful event that we can build on year after year. These are just a couple of the things that we're going to include in the support kit that for people that are hosting sip-ins, some coloring pages. We'll have some word games like crossword puzzles and a lot of internet resources that you can download without any charge. And we'll be connecting with each other through social media. We have a Sip for Peace page and a connected group on Facebook. We are now constructing boards on Pinterest, and we'll be offering ways for you to post your sip-in pictures on Instagram. So I don't want to close without once again mentioning our primary sponsors and also some of our tea donors, the G.S. Haley Company, Nepal Tea Traders, Australian Tea Masters, the Tea Spot, Young Mountain Tea, the Tea House, Bitako, Hasselin and Lyon, International Tea Traders, Vietnam Tea Association, Shan Valley Tea, Loshan Tea, Bukit Sari, Itoen, Lumbani, and the Tindari Estate. If you're wondering more about the Tea Sippers Society, we're a membership group that promotes tea as a lifestyle. We're reaching out to new members, to people who are curious about tea and really don't know anything other than what they've seen on grocery store shelves and from the major brands. But we want to create a bridge between people who are interested in knowing more about tea and the businesses that can help provide them with some interesting and valuable experience. Our motto is, it's hip to sip, and I like to think it's a lot of fun and that we can help make it more so. We have a website that offers a lot of different activities in an area that's called Fun with Tea. We have downloadable books, complete downloadable books. We have a lot of different articles, podcasts, interesting bits and pieces that aren't just about how to buy and brew tea. We also have our monthly newsletters that feature tea events from the tea event calendar, and as well as new items of interest and new interviews, things in the world news around the world in the different tea communities. Through the website and the newsletter that we'll keep the Sip for Peace project going. though somewhat in the background perhaps as we go on to new and different things, but it will always be available for you to go back to as a subscriber. To, if you missed a day during January, you might want to make it up, you might want to share something with a friend or just review it. Some people have said that they would like to do the practice, the 31 days with meditations over and over. They want the opportunity to repeat it and to share it with friends. So I'm really excited to see where it can go from here and what develops as we launch our first Sip for Peace on January 1st to January 31st, and make plans for year two. There are a lot of things that we've set aside that we said, yeah, it would be great to be able to do in 2018, but let's save that one. Let's get a firm footing on this, and then plan to carry on to the future. Lou and I thank you for sharing this recording with us, and we hope that you will visit the website, learn a little bit more about Sip for Peace, and choose to join us in January. For us, it's about how wide this can reach. How much can we reach out? What can we create together as we try to figure out how this world has the potential to change and how we can start to believe in it. If you're already registered as a T-Sipper in any of our membership categories, you'll be receiving updates, and you'll start to get the Sip for Peace emails on January 1st. If you're not, you're welcome to sign up, and you can also follow us on Facebook. Thank you very much, and once again, I hope you join us for January's Sip for Peace.